All right, shalom, shalom. This is the brother Danyala coming back again with another lesson, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Lashawan Qadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. All right, and shalom to the hopeful elect brothers and sisters that believe in this word and that fear in the Heavenly Father and His Son. Just wanted to do a quick video. Salaki, excuse if some things may not be legible. I explain them as I go. But going into the Hebrew alphabet, and Lord will, I'll do another lesson where I'll get in depth about, the different words with that's, formulated from the different characters, right? But as, we were taught of our elders, apostles, they were taught of theirs, about the Hebrew. Now, as a personal testimony, when I came across the Hebrew, I was young, I was 13, all right, when I learned about the Lashawan Qadash, and I went to a school, so to speak, at AOC when I was younger, and came home with the paleo Hebrew, different packets and knowledge on the paleo Hebrew, and I continue my learning ultimately through GMS, okay? But some of these words you're going to see over here is where the origin of the word is, and then some of them is not necessarily the origin, is just a word that starts with that character. All right, so hey, let's start. So the first, now our Hebrew language, the Lashawan Qadash, has 20, and Salakia for the dirt under my fingernails. I'm on the plantation, sitting in the truck. But our Hebrew language has 22 characters, okay, from all the way down to the Tha, right? So as Apostle Tahar teaches, and it's also true, when the Lord says I'm Alpha and Omega, He is the and the Tha, right? The last letter of the Hebrew alphabet and the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which the Greek, actually, those letters do, originate from the Hebrew. Really, all languages originate from the Hebrew, right? But some languages are closer than others. So now, the word Hebrew in the Hebrew is called Ibar Yath, which means from the past. Right, so the first character is the I kind of wrote it out here, sort of phonetically, right? It's a right? It's also, so as in alap, which is the Hebrew word for cattle. It would also mean 1,000. And each of the Hebrew characters have a numerical value also, from 1 to 22. And we have actual numbers in the Hebrew too, but these have a numerical value. An example is Psalms 119. Those kind of go in order of these characters, but in Psalms 119, those are actually instruments, as the elder bro Monagun brings out. So we've talked about it before. I don't know if he's done videos on it, but right, so as in alap, and then here we have ba as in bayath, which bayath means house, right? This character sort of looks like a house. Then we got the ga, so that's your ABC, right? Your alpha, beta. That's your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s, right? Ga as in gamal, which means camel. This kind of looks like the head of a camel. Da as in the lath. You see how simple it is? One syllable. All right, with the exception of I. It is basically the letter I saying its name, right? Da Dalath, which means door. It looks kind of like a triangle. When you think about it, like a teepee, the door of a teepee or a tent is kind of triangular, right? So it's door, Dalath, Da, Ha, right? Which kind of looks like an F, a backwards F with three stems coming off of it straight across. All right, a word, Ha as in halak, which means to walk. Then we have a Y, which kind of looks almost like a football goal, except it's not angular or wide. Looks almost like a U with a stem coming down, a little U with a stem coming down. But that's the Y, right? Y. Okay. Wawa, which means a hook, right? So these are how you pronounce it. These are the characters. So if I were to see this character, the sound is ah. If I were to see this character, the sound is ba, right? So let's go to the next page here. Now we have za. I didn't write anything down for here as far as a word. Couldn't think of one off the top of my head. But this za, all right, looks kind of like a Z. That's where you get the Z, right? A lot of these are very similar to the English alphabet, some of them, right? Then we have ka, which is, kop, which goes into what? The palm of the hand. And it kind of looks like it, if you do your right hand, kind of looks like the palm of your hand, or to hold my hand like that, it looks like a ka, all right? Kop, the palm of the hand, right? Then you have ta. This kind of looks like, if you see Wolverine or X-Men with their old school comic book white and blue or white and black superhero outfits, right? This looks like the symbol on there, right? The X-Men with the circle and the X, right? Ta. Now I put the word tawab there, which means good. So ta is in tawab, right? Like I said, some of these are not the origin of where the character comes from. They're just words that begin with that character or sound, right? Then we have a ya, which is the smallest character in the Hebrew alphabet, right? And you can really see it too when you look at the Assyrian script. It's the smallest little character when you read it in the Assyrian, right? But this is ya, which comes from yad, which means what? A hand, right? And you look at it, it kind of looks like a hand, It's a lot. I've been, painting. Then you have cha. All right, sounds almost like you're about to spit or hagaloogie, so it's in the back of the throat, sort of. The sound cha, right? Cha. And that looks like a ladder, sort of like a ladder, or say like an H with an extra horizontal line at the top and at the bottom. So it looks almost like a ladder, right? All right, or you could say a Roman numeral for 3, turned sideways. Just trying to give, another explanation of the shape of the character, right? Right, and I just put for, a word that begins with cha is chazak, right? Which means strong, all right? Kazak. Then I got la, right? It's like an L, almost like a hook. Sometimes and there's variations on these characters. These are just how I draw my characters. Sometimes the ka is more like a angular slant, but these are how I draw my characters. Like I said, when I first came across the Lashawan Qadash in AOC, Ambassadors of Christ, I used basically the characters that they had on the chart for what they gave me. That's how I remember, writing them. Just like, certain Jake, they even in English, their letters might have a slight variation. You know, as you know, their handwriting, right? So la, I put there lamad. I didn't write it down here, but lamad means what? To learn, right? And then we have a ma, which looks kind of like water, right? Almost like a small W with a, you know, with a half, you know, a circle around it, sort of, right? Ma, as in mayum, which means water, right? Salakia. I kind of did this on the fly. I'm about to have to get on the road soon. Okay. And then here we have a na, which looks like the ma, but it has, you know, one little, like a V, and a half circle or swoosh coming down. And the word I put there is nashak, right? Which means kiss, right? When you read Psalms chapter 2, where it says, kiss the son lest he be angry, the word there is nashak, okay? Which means kiss, right? What did Judas Iscariot do when he met the Lord before you know, he betrayed him? But what did he do? He said, he whom I kiss, that's the one that you take. He did a what? A Lashawan Qadash. He gave him a holy kiss. You know? The Lord said, why betrayest thou me? All right. And then here we have a sa, which looks like a T with two extra lines coming down the bottom. Sa, as in sapar, which means a book. And salakia, for my handwriting, I didn't have a proper pencil. I'm using a damn construction pencil, right? And then here, which looks like an O or a circle, is I, right? You see this? I says his name. I, which is, you know, like an eyeball, right? Ayun, right? Which means I, right? And then we have Pa, which kind of looks like a mouth, right? You have that symbol in what do you call that? When you do algebra, something that's greater than or less than, they draw like a little mouth, sort of like that, but more curved. Your brothers are familiar with that, right? Put a straight line over and a little swoosh. Okay. And the word I put here is punya, which is face, right? You could also put what is that? Pa or pum, which is mouth, right? Or pa. And here I didn't put one for tazah, but you could say what? Tazadak, which means righteous. You know, tazadak. It's just a line and like a little zigzag path over there. Then we got the qua, which kind of looks like a Q, sort of, but that's where the Q originates. Okay, and I put the word Qadash here, which means holy. We can go through these individual words on another lesson. And then there's Ra, which is I put Ra'ash, which means head. Okay, which also metaphorically can mean, you know, first. All right, Shah, Salakia. This is supposed to say Shum, which means name, right? Like the name of the Most High. You know, Shum, Shum Allah, right? Or Shum Alahaya, you know, which is the name of the Most High. You know, Shum Allah, the name of the power, right? Which is Yahweh. Okay, Shum Bun Ka. Bun means son. Ka at the end mean his. Name of his son. So the name of the Most High, that's the his I'm referring to. Right? Shum Bun Ka, which is Yahweh Shai. All right. And then this right here looks kind of like an X, almost like a tie without the circle, but that's a tha. So like it's a th, tha. Maybe I should make, and I'll go through some of these words again, and I'll write them actually in the Hebrew. But I've wrote it using the English lettering as brothers do, as elders have taught. The English lettering for base almost a phonetic visual on how to say the different characters. And as you get good, you won't even use these. You'll just use the characters and know what they mean, and how they connect to each other just by reading and practicing through the spirit. Right, and I put Thawara, which is Torah, all right, or the law. So yeah, that's a quick little Hebrew lesson on the characters. If you want, you can kind of screenshot these different it's only 3 pages, these different ones here, right? And I'll do more lessons on that through the spirit, Lord will. But I'm gonna have to get on the road. So Lord will, you were edified with that. This is our language that's been returned to us in these latter times. You can pray in this language. If you and another brother, you can communicate in this language. You can also since I said these have numerical values, you can make up codes with this. You could write like your number using this code. If you don't want nobody else to know, but say another brother that knows Hebrew, right, you can use this to represent numbers also. So hey, Lord will, you are edified with that. And I'm going to say, call Lord Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai for giving me the spirit to do this quick lesson. And I'm going to say, Shalom.